Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Mauser here, and if you're like me, your Gore-tex and waterproof gear is your best friend out on the track, especially in somewhere like Tasmania in Australia, where it is going to rain pretty much guaranteed any day you go out walking.
And we're now off to Mount Aldebaran. Really bad conditions, been pouring rain. And
you need to have your gear in tip-top condition if you want to be protected and stay as dry as possible while you're out on the track. And when you're walking here, generally your Gore-tex gear, your jacket, your pants, your boots, all that sort of stuff is going to get dirty. It's going to get wet. That's just a fact of life. But if you look after it, you'll get years out of it and it will serve you well trip after trip. So with the proper care of your gear, proper washing, proper rewaterproofing, you are going to get the longest life possible out of your gear. So on this video, we're going to look at when I wash my gear, how I rewaterproof it, and how I get it ready for a big trip. Let's get into it. Now you're probably asking, when should I wash my Gore-tex gear? Now there's no hard rule, but generally you'll know when it needs rewaterproofing and cleaning. Generally, I do mine about once a year because it gets a lot of use. And when it starts to get dirty, if it's got dirt and crap on it, then it's probably time to give it a wash. If it's starting to wet through, that's where the water's not beating on it and running off it. If it's just starting to dampen, pretty much the moment water hits it, then it's time to give your gear a treatment. Obviously, it depends on how much you're using your gear. If you're using it once a year for a couple of days, then you're probably not going to need to rewaterproof it or wash it that often. But when I'm doing these big trips and I'm going off track and into scrub and into mud regularly, then I've got to do mine a bit more often. Generally with waterproof pants, they need to be done after most trips for me because they get covered in mud. I've got to at least wash them after each trip. Now, while you don't have to rewaterproof after each time that you wash them, I generally do it once a year. I give them a rewaterproof and get them pristine and looking like new. Now, before you go out and start throwing your stuff in the washing machine, it's important that you have the right supplies for the job. Now, a lot of the manufacturers of these garments say you can use a gentle detergent, like a delicate wash liquid, but these days there are plenty of purpose-made washing liquids and products to wash your Gore-tex in. And I prefer to use these because that's what they are made for. And when you look at a lot of the manufacturers' websites and instructions, they sometimes recommend specific products, although there's generally two that I would use. I have used the Wax brand since forever, since I started hiking to clean my gear. They've got the spray-on direct product, which we'll go through in a minute, but that is to spray onto your jackets and stuff to waterproof it. But prior to doing that, you need to give it a wash, and the product I use is the Wax Tech Wash. That is, you can wash up to 2 garments at a time in there. So generally I do my pants and my Gore-tex jacket on the same wash. What's recommended for my product is on a warm cycle, 30 or 40 degrees, with 2 capfuls of this on a delicate or a synthetic cycle in my front-loading washing machine. Now it's important just to ensure that your little dispenser for your washing machine is not got any powdered soap or liquid soap in it from previous washes. So maybe run it on just a rinse cycle first to clean out your washing machine, because you don't want any of that soap residue getting on your jacket because it affects its performance. So first thing we do, we wash our jackets, we wash our pants, we get them in, we do that load of washing, put them in and wait for that to finish. So yeah, that's what I use for that wash. We wash it, we put it through, and then we let the garments dry. Now before you put it in the wash, today we're going to wash an older jacket of mine that I haven't used for a while. It really does need a waterproof. We're going to give it a wash first just to make sure it's nice and clean. It's an old Paddy Pallin jacket of mine from back in the day. And before we put it in the wash, we just want to check a few things. We want to make sure that there's nothing in the pockets, obviously. We don't want tissues and stuff going through the wash. So check all the pockets. Ensure all the zips are done up. All the pockets should be zipped up. And ensure that the main zipper is done up also. So do that right up, all the way to the top. And also loosen every drawstring around the jacket on the hood. Make sure they're all loose so you can then get it all washed properly so there's nothing scrunched up. I give it a bit of a shake out and ensure that there is nothing funny going on. So that jacket is all zipped up, ready for the wash. So we're going to put that in the wash and we'll go and put that in now. So yeah, we zip all that stuff up just to ensure that no damage occurs, because if you're flipping around in the washing machine, you could get zippers and stuff leaking everywhere, and if you just zip it up, prevents anything like that happening. Now, if you've got stains on your garment, there are a couple on that one, I wouldn't stress too much about trying to remove them. If you try to remove them with anything other than this, you're probably going to damage the jacket, so don't bother. If you must try and have a go at getting the stain out, you can get a bit of this onto a cloth and just rub it into the stain, see if that helps, let it soak for a little bit in there, but that's about the best you can do. And just before you do wash your garment, do check the label of the garment to ensure that you're doing it on the right cycle, on the right temperature, and all that sort of stuff. Different garments have different requirements for how they should be washed and how the manufacturer recommends they be washed. And according to my stuff that I wear, I tend to do it on a delicate cycle on 40 degrees. Now, a couple of other things I do normally do, once it finishes that first wash cycle, I tend to put it on a rinse cycle again, just to ensure that any trace of the soap is gone and then it's not going to affect it. So I do tend to do that. Then once it's finished, I take it out, and these days I do put it in the tumble dryer because that also helps reactivate the durable water repellent coating, the DWR. It helps reactivate that, and this is recommended by Gore-tex, the manufacturer of Gore-tex. So they recommend using a dryer to reactivate the waterproofing of that. For other products, I can't give you a 100% recommendation on that. Check the label, check the care instructions, check the manufacturer website. But that's what I do. You can, if you don't have a dryer, that's not a problem. You can hang it out to dry. And what you can do is just use a warm iron, no steam, with a towel or something in between the iron and the jacket, and just run that over the jacket on all sides, and that will reactivate the coating as well. But the dryer is by far the easiest option. So if you don't have one, see if a friend has, or find someone that's got a dryer and chuck it in there, because I find that works really well. And often I don't have to do the application of the waterproofing, the rewaterproofing, because doing that a couple of times a year in the dryer reactivates the waterproofing on the jacket for me. So a quick summary on the washing and the drying. Use a liquid detergent, a gentle one. Preferably, I would use a gear-specific one. Don't use powder detergents. They do not wash out as well. They leave residue. They're not a good thing to use with waterproof garments. Don't use bleachers or stain removers with this stuff. It will destroy the gear, it will wreck it, and it's just not worth it. Do not put any fabric softeners in when you're doing this. The stuff doesn't need to be soft, and if you do put them in, it can destroy the integrity of the fabric and make it ineffective, basically. Make sure you rinse the garment thoroughly on a low spin setting. I put mine on a low spin setting when I do it. And ensure to reactivate your garment by either putting in the tumble dryer or using a iron on a warm setting with no steam, with a towel in between the iron and the garment. So there are your 6 points. Quick summary of how to wash and care for your garment. Now that you've cleaned the garment, we're ready to re-waterproof the garment. Give it at that sparkling DWR finish again. Now, again, when do I need to do this water repellency waterproofing scenario? When do I need to do that? Why do I need to do that? If you can pour water on your jacket and it doesn't bead and run straight off, if it's just gets damp and leaves like that wet sort of look to the jacket or to the pants, then it's time to give it a re-waterproof. Some people look at it and go, oh, that looks ruined, it's wrecked, I'm going to need a new jacket. You don't need a new jacket. You definitely don't need a new jacket. You've just got to look after it and re-waterproof it. Now, before you go running off to your Tech sprays and TX Direct spray-ons, check the manufacturer's website, check the label on the garment that it can be re-waterproofed. Some things cannot be re-waterproofed. There is a product called Gore-tex Shake Dry, which you shake dry. That cannot be re-waterproofed. The membrane on that is different, so you can't do it on those Gore-tex Shake Dry products. I don't see too many of them around, but just check the label. So basically what we do, we've got our dry garment, which has been washed and dried, and I like to take it outside and lay it flat on a surface that I don't mind getting this spray onto, because what happens, you spray it somewhere, and I've done it on the ground on the path before, and you end up with this layer of this stuff on the ground, and then when it rains, you'll see an outline of your jacket on the driveway or wherever you've sprayed it, repelling the water, and it just looks a bit funny. It's a bit annoying, I suppose, but you can do it wherever you like. I do it outside on a flat surface. I spray it down. I spray the entire garment. I lay it flat on one side, spray that side first, and what I find really effective is using a small sponge to rub it in, and just in a sort of circular motion, I rub it all over the jacket. They do say you can just spray it on and let it drip off, but I've found that if I just use a sponge to just dab it and just get it into the fabric in every nook and cranny, that I get a better finish, and I appreciate it when I'm out in the track in the rain, because the water repels much better. I also find that the application lasts longer when I do this dabbing and rubbing in motion of the spray. So once that's done, you do both sides, you do the arms. It takes probably 10 or 15 minutes for me to do my jacket, and I just do that all over, and then I can either hang it and let it dry, but you can just chuck it straight into the dryer again for 20 minutes on a warm cycle, and that dries it off, and then your jacket is ready to go. So whether or not you hang it up to dry, or just hang it in the shade, not in the sun, or in the dryer, then it is ready to go. It is good as new. You are ready to spray some water on it and check out how it goes. And there is nothing more satisfying after you've given it that treatment, you've given it the wash, and you've taken your time to care for your jacket and your pants. There is nothing better than the first time you're out in the track and it rains and you just look at the water being off. It is very satisfying, and it's worth doing once a year just for that sense of satisfaction when you're out in the track, knowing that you're nice and dry and it's not wetting through your jacket and you're not going to be miserable. You're going to be happy because your water is just beating and running off your jacket. Look at us now, completely waterproofed up after lunch, and we're back where we were 12 years ago, day 2, and just loving this section of the range in the rain and the mist. Now, in terms of general repairs, if you notice you've got some small nicks, some small cuts in your jacket, anything like that, not uncommon. Like I said in that previous video about my Arc'teryx Beta AR, that hasn't had a single tear in years of use on the track through brutal terrain. It's been good, but if you do get a small tear, then people like Arc'teryx and Patagonia, they will repair it for you, generally free of charge if you can get it back to them. The other option I have used in the past is to get something like tenacious tape, which they make little fabric strips and patches which you can put onto a jacket, and they stick like no one's business to it, and that will generally provide a good solution to fix a small cut or tear. But if it's bad, send it back to the manufacturer. They will help you out. I'll try and find some links to leave them below. I'll also leave some links to the tenacious tape patches. They're actually called Gear Aid patches. I'll leave that below too. I just keep a pack of them on hand at all times. I've got little black circles that I just put onto gear. I've used them quite often. I take them on the track with me too for when I get small tears in my pants normally, or my tent. So they are really good too. So yeah, that's how I clean my jacket and my pants, my shell jacket and my raincoat and my waterproof pants while I'm out on the track. It's important that you do that regularly, otherwise it can just lead to misery on the track. You're wet, you're uncomfortable, it's no good. And in my early days, I didn't do any of this stuff. I didn't wash my gear, but boy, it does, once you get it right and once you know how to do it properly, it makes a big difference, and it'll make your life so much happier on those rainy days. Looks like people are enjoying the videos. So happy that you're enjoying them. I'd love to see you back here, so subscribe, hit that little bell thing as well that's there down there somewhere, which will notify you when I've launched a new video, so you'll be able to watch it straight away or at your leisure. But please like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.